So you want to start creating content online and making some gaming videos. And obviously you're going to need something to capture all of that gameplay. And so what I have for you guys today is three of the Elgato products. We have the new HD60X. We also have the 4K 60S Plus and also the 4K 60 Pro Mark II. And in my opinion, for capture cards, these are the three Elgato products that you should definitely consider. I've been using Elgato products for a really long time, and I have honestly a ton more Elgato stuff than I'm proud to admit, but I'm glad to be giving you guys these quick little comparisons. Let's start off with the newly released HD60X, because this one, in my opinion, has undergone the most extensive changes as far as usability and some other good things as well. But starting off, this one is going to be replacing the HD60 line of products. It has an updated design with some really nice features like having all of the ports on the back that you're going to be using most of the time, like your HDMI in and out, as well as your USB Type-C to connect to your computer. Now, the ports on the back instead of on the sides is absolutely a huge deal, because I used to absolutely hate the fact that the Elgato was just designed so weird. You had like one HDMI on the one side and then one on the other side, and if you use analog audio that you had to plug into your controller, now you had this cable like coming from the back of your setup, however far away that may be, so you can get your gameplay and chat audio all in one mix. And it was just kind of a headache, especially where the placement of the Elgato was probably buried in all of your cables. Where this, you can leave this on top of your desktop, connect your Elgato chat link to this, and then you just have the one cable running from a very easy to reach place. And it's just much easier to manage all the cables when they're all coming from one direction and not coming from both sides of the Elgato like they used to in the old days. Now, this does feature 4K 60 pass-through, and it also has one unique feature that is not featured on any other Elgato product at the moment, which is variable refresh rate support. So more or less what that means is that in the gameplay that is captured, it will eliminate screen tearing as long as you have VRR enabled, like you can on PC as well as Xbox. On PlayStation currently, VRR is not yet supported, but I'm pretty sure that it will come eventually. We just don't know how long it's going to take for Sony to add that feature to the PS5, or if they ever add it. It may never come, who knows. And then as far as capturing, in the name there is HD, so that means that it only captures 1080p 60, but it also gives you HDR support for your color. The HDR color performance is fantastic on all of the devices that we're going to talk about today, and the best part about it is that the HDR gives you a lot more information for you to work with when you're editing your gameplay to make it look as good as you want it to and give it a unique look. And one unique thing about the HD60X is that it is also compatible with macOS as well, but only if you want to use it in OBS. And in OBS, it does actually capture pretty decent color as well. And with some slight tweaks, you can make it look even better without a ton of work. So for $200, the other capture cards on this list are going to be a little bit or a lot more expensive. I do think that this one is a very good benchmark to start off this list. And honestly speaking, if you're gaming on console and you want to use the analog audio, this is probably going to be your best option out of all of these capture cards today. Next up on our list, we have the Elgato 4K 60S Plus. This one is $399. It does capture up to 4K 60 in HDR as well. It also features an onboard video encoder so that you can record with an SD card, so you can save footage directly to the SD card without even needing to use a computer. So you don't have to have your laptop or your desktop plugged into this thing. If you just want to plug it in, capture some gameplay, and worry about editing it and all that stuff and previewing it later, which makes this the most portable thing on this list, because the last capture card is going to be stuck inside your PC 100% of the time. The HD60X is pretty portable, but you still need to have a laptop or desktop somewhere with you to record your gameplay, where this you can plug and play and record from anywhere. Has a built-in encoder that definitely helps out with file sizes, and it also helps to reduce the CPU load on your computer when you do use this in the plugged-in mode. So you can plug this directly into your PC and record just like any other Elgato, or you can use it with the power supply and again record directly to the SD card. And honestly speaking, I have very mixed opinions about this thing. So number one, if I wanted to use this thing at home as my primary Elgato in OBS, especially for streaming and recording content when I'm not using the 4K capture utility, the color looks absolutely horrible. And it was near impossible just to use color correction to get the color to look very similar to the HD60X when using OBS, and not even close to the quality of the 4K 60 Pro. I would only use this as my portable Elgato device, or if I'm just recording content using the Elgato 4K utility, because the color reproduction out of that is going to be exactly the same as the HD60X and the 4K 60 Pro Mark II. But again, using this thing in OBS is not a good idea. Not to mention that it's also not compatible with macOS as well. At least in macOS, you can use the HD60X in OBS and still record some gameplay from a computer. But if you're using this, it absolutely does not work at all, and Elgato has no drivers or software for the HD60X or the 4K 60S Plus. What a name. Oh my God, that's a horrible name. And not to mention that this thing is also $400. It's very expensive, and it is very niche too. Like, again, you can use this to record very high quality gameplay without recording like commentary and all that stuff too. Like, it's just the most basic thing to get high quality gameplay recording from anywhere. But there is a couple of big reasons why you wouldn't go for the HD60X or the 4K 60S Plus. One of the main issues is that they do not support dual instance recording, which means that you cannot have the Elgato 4K capture utility up and an instance of OBS up. So if you wanted to stream your gameplay with all of your overlays and things like that, and also capture a higher quality and clean feed, you can't do it, which is really unfortunate, because both of these devices, if that was possible, would be a steal when it comes to capturing high quality gameplay and also being able to stream in high quality as well. But there is a device for that, and that is going to lead us to the Elgato 4K 60 Pro Mark II. So this one does capture 4K 60 in HDR, so you will get those fantastic colors as well that you've seen on the other two devices, and you also get up to 240 hertz pass-through with 1080p recording at 240 hertz as well, which is absolutely insane. Connects directly through PCIe for streaming computers, which is really nice if you have a dual PC setup where you have your gaming PC where you don't want to have any of your performance compromised, so you want to have a separate streaming PC to make sure that you're getting the absolute best frame rates in game and you can perform your best while you're entertaining your crowd. With the 4K 60 Pro Mark II, you can capture 4K 60 in HDR, 1440p 144 Hz, as well as 1080p 240 Hz capture. Unfortunately, this one does not support analog audio like the other two Elgatos, so you cannot plug in an Elgato chat link and connect it to your controller to capture your gameplay as well as chat audio at the same time. You will have to already have like half swapped to PC and start using Discord or the Xbox Party app where you can use Xbox Game Chat on your PC. But for you guys on PlayStation, I have zero ideas for you. I don't know if there is a PlayStation PC app where you can use PlayStation Party Chat. Probably not. If that's not a thing, like, it would be really nice if Sony made that, because that would be perfect for people that want to stream and play PlayStation games. And this is the only capture card out of the three that does support dual instance recording, so you can use this to capture higher quality gameplay and also stream as well with all your overlays and all that crazy stuff. Now, unfortunately, this capture card does not support variable refresh rate like the new HD60X, but since that is a brand new feature that they are showing off, I'm pretty sure that eventually when they come out with a 4K 60 Pro Mark III, that they will include variable refresh rate recording. I'm pretty positive, because otherwise it would be kind of pointless to come out with. But one thing that I do want to say, as far as all of the cables that were included with these things, they all included HDMI 2.0 cables, and I'm pretty sure they're all using HDMI 2.0 ports. What I want to see with the next versions of all of these Elgato gameplay capture cards is I want to see HDMI 2.1 cables and ports, especially when a lot of the console games start to show in 4K 120 Hz, especially when we inevitably get the refreshes of the consoles like the PS5 Pro or Plus or whatever they decide to call it eventually, and the Xbox Series X, S, Plus, whatever they decide to call it as well. I'm pretty sure that those are going to have a lot more capability to play at those higher refresh rates, and we're going to need something that's going to be able to capture that too. And I'm pretty sure that Elgato is already working on it, since we don't really need it right now at the moment. I don't really think that anybody is watching YouTube in 4K 120 FPS, so we don't really need it right now, but that is something that I want to see in the future. And it's also good for pass-through. Like, you can't pass through 4K 120 FPS either, so if you're playing Warzone, for example, console, and I don't know if Warzone on console runs at 4K 120 FPS, but if it does, you're not going to be able to take advantage of that 4K 120 FPS because it only allows for 4K 60 pass-through on all of these Elgato capture cards. So again, if you're playing on console, that's just something to keep in mind. So again, as far as my recommendations go, I would go with the HD60X for $199 as far as 4K 60 goes, because more or less if you're playing a game at 4K 120 Hertz, it's not really gonna work with any of these capture cards. Like, you're gonna have to buy a splitter for it to work with the capture cards. You're not gonna be using the output built into the capture card, you're gonna be using the output on the splitter, and then the other output going to your Elgato capture card. But buy the HD60X if you primarily play on console and you plan on making content in 1080p 60, and trust me, the quality is good. You don't really need the 4K quality, but you can if you really want to. Buy the 4K 60 Mark II if you play on PC, just to make sure that you get the absolute best when it comes to pass-through and input lag and whatnot as well, because this is perfect for a dual PC streaming setup. And it's only $50 more than the HD60X, which I know is already pretty expensive at $200, but for $250 and even owning the 4K 60 Pro Mark II for over a year now, I'm pretty happy with the results, and I don't really see a real reason to want to upgrade, even when they come out with a Mark III that has that variable refresh rate, because I really don't think that that would be worth it. The only reason why I would upgrade to a Mark III is if it had VRR and HDMI 2.1 to capture 4K 120 Hertz. Capture and pass through, to be specific. And lastly, buy the 4K 60S Plus, again, horrible name, only if you capture gameplay on the go all the time and you just don't have a laptop, because in my opinion, the HD60X is so portable already, and I would rather have a preview of my gameplay just to be sure that it's capturing than to have to worry about like all the different lighting and whatnot that's going on with that red record button on the front of that 4K 60S Plus. And I would like to recommend the 4K 60S Plus if you just don't have the most powerful computer, but at the same time, if your computer is not strong enough to edit 4K 60 in HDR, how in the world is recording that to an SD card and then transferring it to your PC and then attempting to edit that even gonna work? If you can't capture it with a regular Elgato capture card, it's probably gonna be nearly impossible to even edit the footage that you're gonna be grabbing off of the SD card. But anyways, that's gonna be it for this video. If you guys enjoyed, feel free to drop a like and subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you guys for watching. If you are interested in any of these three Elgato products, as well as an SD card that I will have linked in the description below for use with the 4K 60S Plus, and also some thinner low profile HDMIs that will probably make your life a lot easier when it comes to cable management, because honestly speaking, those HDMI cables that Elgato gives you, those things are super chunky and they're going to be a pain to try to manage. So I'll give you guys a link to those low profile HDMI cables that I use myself in the description as well. But thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next video.